StudioNascosto.
Hello, my name is Jared. I'm with StudioNascosto, and I wanted to do a review of this artist Loft Gouache that I use for the second issue of That Which Is Unseen. So a couple things I want to talk about. First off, let me just talk a little bit about the format of these. I don't know how I want to do reviews going forward. I would like to do paintings, but for right now I'm not going to because I already did the paintings. I wanted to do a review while I was painting, but we were so, the deadline was right there. I just didn't have time. So for this video, I'm going to be showing you backgrounds from the latest issue. I do want to do a more comprehensive video discussing what gouache is and misunderstandings about gouache, especially when it comes to acrylic gouache, which this is not acrylic gouache. But that'll be for a later video. I'm pretty excited about that one, actually. But for now, we'll just keep it simple. These were okay. I'll just start with this kind of the summary there. They were okay. They had their problems. Obviously, I'm not the greatest artist. I'm still learning to paint backgrounds. It is a big dream of mine. There's a lot of problems with them. There's going to be a lot of problems with them. I know it's a weak point of the comics, and I do apologize for that. I'm going to try to keep getting better. But yeah, so let's just go ahead and talk about it. First off, let's talk about cheap versus expensive gouache. I understand. I've been in a lot of difficult points in my life when it comes to finances. So there is a need for cheap art supplies, and I'm going to say right off the bat, if you're in that boat, this is not a bad choice. You're going to have difficulties, and it's important to understand that no matter how nice your paint is, you're always going to be limited by your skill. And a great artist, like someone who's much better at painting than me, could take these and work wonders. Like, they could just do amazing things with these. It doesn't mean they wouldn't have challenges. They're going to be difficult, and the more expensive paints are going to be easier to work with. That's really the key thing, is you're going to be dealing with light fast, which we can cover that more. Not so important for this video because these are definitely not light fast, but more so just to keep in mind that, you know, for working on comics, these are not going to be bad, especially if you're in a pinch, which is what I was in. I basically didn't have the funds to get the paint I wanted to at the moment, and I didn't have the time, even if I had the funds, to wait for them to come in by order, because you can't find them in any art stores. So it's just like, I just need something to work with right now. So I bought these at Michael's. I think it's their brand. It's just a generic brand, Artist Loft. Comes in this little nice set here. Not enough white right off the bat. You're working with gouache, you're gonna need more white. Not a lot. I ended up buying like a bunch of boxes. I bought like 5 of these, just so I could have enough white to work on the backgrounds. So ease of mixing. Very easy to mix. I didn't have any problems with that. So I didn't have any clumping. I didn't have anything weird like that. There was some oil separation, which doesn't bother me so much, because if you just, you can kind of do this with the tubes of it before you do them. You kind of work them around a little bit before you start using them if you're having an issue. I don't know how much it helps, but it seems to help a little bit. So just kind of massage the tube, and then you can start mixing them. The colors are fine to me. I mean, especially when you're dealing with more of like, if you have an interest in anime or like Ghibli or whatever, you have your very basic colors here. This works really good as a undergreen, like a darker green, and this works good as a highlight green. Typically you need to add white to this though to get the right highlight, but you don't need to add much white. Usually 1-to-1 works fine. And then you have all your standard colors. I had no problem getting the colors I wanted to. Mixing them was very easy. I could get any color I wanted to very quickly. So for that, very good. I was very happy with that. That was actually one of the more enjoyable parts about painting with these. This is the background you saw a video for already. I apologize again for the quality of that video. But it was fun to paint. I hope you enjoyed getting to watch the process a bit. This was probably my favorite thing to paint. Sorry, my table's all shaky. I'm trying not to move it too much. But working on the trees was a lot of fun. Laying things down, worked just like watercolor. Really enjoyed that. It dries. This is an important thing to remember about gouache too. When gouache dries, no matter how high quality it is, there's always a certain level of, like, you're not gonna be able to lift it very easily. This is something I'll talk about when I talk about acrylic gouache, because sometimes people say acrylic gouache isn't really gouache, and one of the reasons is saying that because you can't lift it after it's dry, which is not actually true with acrylic gouache, especially when you look at ranges like Turner versus Holbein, then Liquid X. With Turner, like, you can lift a bunch of it. I've only seen this, I haven't tested myself, and that's what I want to do in a future video. I really want to dive into that and really spend some time talking about gouaches. So I'm just excited about that video. That's why I'm bringing it up again, because it's kind of a wee passion of mine. So I'm looking forward to talking about that. But yeah, this was a lot of fun to work with. With this cave painting, the problems with this paint, the problems I'm going to talk about, they're not so obvious with this painting because it has a lot of texture. There's a lot of variation in color and tone. So there wasn't a lot for me to have to be concerned about when working with this paint. It's when I went to my interior backgrounds that I really started to face problems. So here, I'm not happy with this background at all. But this was the carpet, and you have the floorboards there. Very simple. I didn't get a chance to do shadows. We just didn't have time to do that. And I didn't have acrylic gouache, which would have been really great for adding shadows to this, and just didn't have it at the time. So, but it has issues with smudging. Like this laid out pretty okay, and it's fairly matte. There's a little bit of sheen to it. These aren't like the most matte, but they're good enough for my purposes at the time. I didn't use a pen for inking. I actually just used the black gouache here to do that, and I'm not the best hand. I have a little bit of shaky hand, so it's not perfect, but it seemed to work for what we needed. This is where we really see the problems start to show up. Let me flip this over. I could not get an even layout, and this is one of the benefits of using a gouache. Is supposed to be able to get a very clean, even layout, like just completely uniform. And I know that I don't have the best technique, but I tried over and over again to use a very consistent levels of paint. I tried everything I could think of, and there's nothing I could do with this paint to get it to lay evenly. It just always had this blotchiness to it. That was just difficult. Whenever I needed these flat surfaces to be just flat and or have like a nice gradient, I just couldn't get it to work. Again, it could be a user issue, but I mean, there are cheap paints, and this is an issue when you have cheap gouache, is typically having this issue. So, maybe we'll call it 50-50 on mistakes here, but this was a problem. I'm still pretty happy with the background, but it's just an issue that came up. Again, you can see it here, same problems, especially here. It just wasn't working for me. Let's give you a moment to kind of absorb it. Again, I really had a problem here. I was trying so hard to get this to be consistent, and it wouldn't work. So yeah, I want to talk about dry time. Dry time is basically the same as Holbein and acrylic gouache. Dries very fast. You can reactivate with water, like you can with the Holbein to an extent, but it just dries very quickly. So just if you have like a little mister, that's really handy, which I don't have. So I was kind of splashing water in there whenever I can. At this point, when I was doing these backgrounds, I actually inked these using another pen I'll show in a later video, which I was really happy with. In fact, I was so happy with these. They're these Japanese brush pens that have the ink already inside of them. I was so happy with them. I ordered a whole set that I'm going to be using for future issues, because I was just really happy. This one, I only had one of them, so I didn't have variation, but I got a set of 5 now with different thicknesses, and of course they're brush pens, so I can also vary the thickness just by pressure. So just really happy with those. Looking forward to using them in the future. Okay, let's see. Another thing I tried with doing this time, and it worked out fine. Like I said, it's a gouache, so you can use it like a watercolor. And I just did all the stuff in the background as a watercolor, partly because of time and partly because I just wanted to have a more of an out of focus look. So I didn't ink it, and I didn't give it as strong of colors as what was in focus. Just to make it a little more out of focus in the background. These backgrounds, if you're wondering how I did these, maybe you're like, oh, his perspective's not too bad. You know, he's got a shaky line, but the perspective's pretty good. What I actually did was I built this in 3D. I used to work as a 3D artist for many years. So I actually just built this whole house in 3D. I did it first in AutoCAD, and then I made it in 3D, and then I actually just went around with the camera and took pictures of all the frames I needed, and then I laid the watercolor paper right on my monitor, and I just trace the background, and then I'm ready to start painting. It works for me. It might be a thing you never thought of that would help you out, so give it a shot. It definitely saves some time. Particularly happy with this one. Again, so streaky, just so many problems there, but still overall very happy. I actually remember the songs I was listening to. I like to listen to music while I'm painting, so it's like I'm hearing the songs as I'm looking at these backgrounds. I'm sorry, I'm like all over the place. I haven't done one of these before, so I'm sorry it's all over the place. I'll get better. And last background. Not so much happy with what's over here, but very happy with how this came out on this side. Overall, I was happy with them. They function for what I need them for. That's the point, is that they were cheap. These were $6. $6 for one of these. But I do want to talk about something that's pretty important. Okay, so when deciding about whether or not a paint is worth the money, here's a tip I'm going to give you, and I want you to you have to be careful. Okay, so these were $6, and they were good in a pinch, but how much money did I actually save? I'm not going to run all the numbers here, but just kind of, vaguely talking about this. At $6, I had to buy 5 of these. Okay, so I spent $30 just to be able to do what I need to do for these backgrounds. But you can buy a good acrylic gouache set, like a good medium set, for about $30. I had to buy so much because I didn't have enough white. So maybe with a little bit extra, I could have had a much higher quality paint. So that's what you got to think about. If you only need this and you don't need to buy a bunch of extra sets, this might actually work really well for you. But if you're in my situation, I actually didn't really save money by doing this. But I had to do it because I didn't have time. Where I live, basically, I have the issue of it takes like 2 weeks, sometimes even 3 weeks for stuff to arrive. And, there's a deadline. I didn't have the ability to wait for the paint to arrive, so I had to go to the store and find what they had, and I had a budget to work with. And they had a Winsor & Newton, which has a lot of good reviews, but the problem was that they were tubes of the same size with less colors, the same amount of white, but they were $20, and I was like, well, I need more white. I use a lot of white in this one, so it was just a problem all around in that. For what I'm talking about there. That part was a problem. You understand what I'm talking about, I'm sure. Well, thank you for watching this video. I hope it was insightful. I do want to do more videos like this. I have another video I want to do for you. I want to talk about composition in comics. I come from more of a film background, but I use a lot of that when I'm thinking about how to tell stories in a comic. And I want to give you some tips there, so that'll be a future video. But thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like if you can, and if you want to see the comic that this is in, if you become a patron, it's available now. This comic will become available on our website for free to read. about the middle of the month, but we would appreciate the support. If you want to sign up for Patreon, we have a $3, $5, and $15 level. If you know anyone that is interested in this, please share. And thank you so much just for your time and just helping our company grow. We appreciate it. All right, I'll talk to you later.